Your desk is not just a place to do work. It's a ritual space of progress and creativity. It's your cockpit for your projects, your learning, the studies, everything. You'll spend literally tens of thousands of hours at your desk. So it makes sense to invest in some comfort and efficiency. I'll walk you through my setup. But I don't want this to be a boring list of items, because what I have is not necessarily what you need or want. And so I want to sprinkle in some general philosophy on what makes a good workspace, so you can take these general ideas and then hopefully manifest them in your own unique way. First comes organization, because a cluttered desk is a cluttered mind. And I've heard some people say, well, yeah, but a cluttered desk is a sign of intelligence. And all I hear there is coping. It's a cope. And even if it is true, it's just not worth it. My desk back in college was a landfill. I mean, it may have been big, but it was always messy. And I was always having to dig around to look for things. I didn't realize it at the time either, but all of this clutter was a subtle but constant stress factor. It was weighing down on me and it hurt my focus. I think that's why a lot of people cannot do anything productive until after they've cleaned their space. They need that harmony and that peace before the focus can come. I mean, even Jordan Peterson said it. Clean your room, bucko. My favorite thing for this is a desk organizer, because it gives all of those loose bits of stationery a home. And because there's individual sections, you know exactly where everything is, and it's all clean and tidy. I also bought this pen tray, and it may seem redundant with a desk organizer, but I like to keep my main writing pen here, just to keep it separate from all the other peasant stationery. And since I use it the most often, it just makes sense to be able to find it and grab it quickly. I also love desk shelves. Most of them have a second shelf for storage, and they create these nice flat areas to display stuff or to put away notebooks. Here I tuck away my audio interface and my notebooks, and I just love how neat it looks. Desk shelves also add this level of dimension and verticality to your desk. It's literally another layer, and I like that because it sort of wraps around you and makes you feel cozy. It's just interesting design-wise. It also hides the tragedy that is my cable organization. And we're not going to dwell on that for now, but I just ask that you do a better job than me. In the last setup video, someone commented saying that I should reduce the amount of stuff on the desk itself, because there's just more to gather dust and it's going to make it harder to clean. And that is so true. I listened. So thank you to whoever that was. Of course, the desk shelf helps a lot with that. But I also recently bought this nice under desk drawer where I keep, miscellaneous things I want nearby. I've really been loving it. And because apparently I'm obsessed with anything you can see clamped to a desk, I also got this weird side organizer thing. Maybe it's not the most necessary, sure, but I like it. It's good to keep books there, to keep your notepads, your pens, whatever you want. The point is it keeps stuff off the table and out of sight, and that's kind of what we're aiming for. And speaking of cleaning, I recommend keeping a spray bottle full of water. Just water, nothing else. And I like to spray a cloth or a tissue, and of course the water makes dust stick to it, and it's just much easier to clean your desk like that. Second, we have to make this space as comfortable as possible, because again, you'll be spending ages here, and it's just logical. The most important piece of the puzzle here is the desk you choose. I mean, this is the heart of your setup. This is literally the foundation which everything else sits upon. For most of my life, I worked from a coffee table, which left me fidgeting for comfort. And then it was a flimsy IKEA desk, which was fine, I guess, but I found myself sitting down all day. So much so that I started to ache and I had to kneel for a bit of comfort. At some point I thought, okay, this isn't good enough. I want a desk for life. And I opted for a FlexiSpot standing desk. And I'm actually grateful to say they are sponsoring this video. This model is the E7 Pro. When sitting starts to feel uncomfortable, I can simply tap a button and lift the entire setup to a standing height. I can stretch my back, my legs, and I can just carry on working. That's not just comfort in the moment, but long-term protection for your posture and your spine's health. Sitting down too much is quite literally killing us. And this is one of the easiest ways to counter that disturbing trend. There's no guesswork here either, because the table has a memory setting, and it remembers the perfect heights for your sitting and your standing. Some people assume that standing desks are flimsy or unstable, but I don't see that here. Even with all of the bulky equipment I have, the E7 Pro has no trouble hauling it up and down, smooth as butter. When static, it can support up to 444 pounds, which, I mean, that's more than enough. The robust legs mean I can lean on it without it wobbling, and it's not really bothered by bumps or shoves at all. With desks, I recommend the larger size that your room can fit, because it's always better to have too much desk space than too little. So you can spread your stuff out and you have this room to breathe. Also, having more depth in your table size means that you can sit close to it and be comfortable without having the monitors right up in your face. FlexiSpot lets you choose the size and color of your tabletop, so the choice is abundant there. They also offer plenty of cool accessories for storage, for cable management, and for comfort. And it's nice to be able to personalize your desk and truly make it your own. FlexiSpot is currently running their 9th anniversary sales, up to 65% off and even a chance to get some orders 100% off, which is just crazy. They offer all kinds of standing desks and chairs at many different budgets. And I like that. It's nice to have that variety to choose from. So do check out their range, and at checkout, you can actually put an order note saying Odysseus. And you can also use code YTE7P50 to get $50 off of your E7 Pro standing desk. And that would really mean a lot to me. It'd help me support the channel. And of course, I hope you enjoy using it just as much as I did, because it's genuinely great. I've loved it. So thank you very much to FlexiSpot. Now I'm really happy with my desk, but when it comes to the second most important thing for your setup, I'm lacking. You need a good chair, because you'll be sitting at your desk for ages, and even if you can stand up, you still want your time sitting down to be comfortable. I can't lie, my chair sucks. So I'm not a good example here. It's uncomfortable, it's cheap, it hurts my ass. So why am I not taking my own advice? What's the deal here? Well, plain and simple, I can't afford it. And there's a good reason I'm mentioning this. Your setup is a journey. It took me years to get everything in this video. And there was lots of experimenting, tinkering, and figuring out what actually worked and what was pointless. And I say this because it's very easy to get stuck in a cycle of watching these desk videos and feeling like you have to go from 0 to 100. Like you have to have everything all at once. And that's just not true. I mean, it's harmful, in fact. There have been times where I've caught myself spending mindlessly. Not because I really needed it, but just because I wanted to fill some void or have some fun in the moment. That's stupid, and I don't want you to fall for that same trap. So don't buy things just because I'm using them or because some other YouTuber recommended it. And also, it's okay to not be able to afford things right now, you know? You can save up, and in my case, that's what I'm doing. I'm waiting to buy a good chair that really serves me, rather than compromise on the quality, buy something mid that doesn't really do the job. This is not a personal finance channel though, so we'll move on. The next thing you can see actually is the microphone arm. And now obviously I'm using it for videos, but you don't have to. You can use it for taking calls at home. It's really convenient. You know, when you need it, you swivel it in front of you. When you're done, you kick it away. It's just not all up in your face. As for the keyboard, I used to use a cheap one for ages. And I thought mechanical ones were either just for gaming or a bit gimmicky in general. I was stupid for thinking. I was wrong, I was stupid. Now that I have a mechanical keyboard, it's night and day. And even for a slow typer like me, I can just go faster because of how tactile and responsive it is. I mean, it's quite literally pay to win. I know this is obvious for like 99% of people, but if you're in that same position as I was, give it a try, don't doubt them. My mouse is a Logitech MX Master 3S, and that's like the default good mouse, right? I mean, you see it everywhere. It has a nice ergonomic shape, it has buttons and sliders that you can customize to do whatever. And my favorite thing is the scroll wheel. And that sounds weird, but hear me out. It's made of metal and it carries its momentum. So you can really flick it and it will spin very fast for ages. And that's good because if you write a lot or you read a lot online, you can navigate up and down the pages very quickly. You can teleport to the bottom, teleport to the top, and it's just so handy for getting around. I didn't think I needed this, but now that I have it, it's amazing. This will sit on a nice leather desk mat, which really elevates the space and gives me a nice soft surface to work on. And finally, I like to keep both headphones and earphones on my desk, because when using one gets uncomfortable, I just switch to the other. Now, ideally, you'd have a set of external speakers that you can switch to, but again, that's not something I want to pay the money for right now, so I'm going to try and chill, try not to succumb to that itch of consumerism. For now. The next thing to consider is lighting, because it's not as simple as just switching the big light on. Okay, it's not that bad, but still the big light creates this harsh flat white. The big light creates this harsh, flat light across the whole room, and it's just unwelcoming. You know, you don't want your place to feel like a hospital. See, now that's better. I like to use these smaller, warmer lights to create pockets of ambience throughout the room, ones which you can turn on and off depending on how much light you need and what you're doing. It's also much softer on your eyes at night, especially if you use warmer lights which don't disrupt your circadian rhythm as much. I have two on my desk, and I recommend putting one next to or behind your main monitor. And that's going to reduce the contrast at night by lighting up the wall, of course. Otherwise, it's really harsh on your eyes because it's just this pitch black background and then a white flashbang screen blinding you. I don't know how people can put up with that, but I can't. You don't have to get fancy here. All of mine are cheap and pretty basic, and even then, it creates this lovely coziness. I also own these two lights which I normally use for filming, but I've discovered they actually work great as ambient lights as well. They even come with a choice for RGB. So if you want your room to feel like a brothel or a crime scene, you can do that. I won't judge. Next comes the monitors, which I believe I've reached the final form of. Well, at least for now, let's be real, there's no end. I like to have 2 monitors because the second one gives you room to spread your windows out. And it's so much nicer than having to cramp everything onto one. I like to have my music, my research, my emails on the second monitor, and then have the main focus, of course, right in front of me. Now, I see some people set them up like this, with the split in the middle. To me, this is a sacrilege because your head is never in a neutral forward position, and you have to be either looking left or right all of the time, and it just doesn't make sense. So instead, I like to keep the main monitor directly in front of me and then have the second one at an angle, just tilted next to it. One other sacrilege is when people leave a gap in between both monitors, or even worse, they separate them entirely, which is just mega cursed. Trust me, you do not want a gap. You want the transition to be as smooth as possible between them. And when you keep them close, not only is it not ugly, but you don't have to turn your head 90 degrees to look at something else on the other screen. Break your neck in the process. And finally, my monitor doctrine, you can actually save money here by getting a cheaper, lower resolution one as your secondary monitor, but then investing a little bit more in your main one. That's what you'll be doing most of the work on, and you don't need the second one to be as good, let's say. To hold them up, I bought these monitor arms, also from FlexiSpot. And I like that because it keeps the bottom area free and you can use the space there more effectively. It also means that you can easily rearrange the displays if you feel like it. If you move your desk, if the sun hits them weirdly, anything like that. It's just convenient. Your workspace is a throne of learning. And that's why, we need some stuff to help us read and write. My favorite item here is the third monitor, but this one's not a screen. I like to take notes from my books and to transcribe passages I liked into Obsidian. And to do that, to help me keep the book open, I use this folding wooden book stand. Otherwise, I'm caught in this annoying dance between book and screen. And I lose my place, I don't know where I am, and it's just frustrating. I also love to keep a notebook nearby to write rough drafts or to take notes. And of course, for the sake of aesthetics, you have to keep it in a leather case. Most people ignore this last section, and it's what separates a cold office cubicle from a setup that truly feels like home. We cannot forget the atmosphere and aesthetics. You want your desk to be a place of peace and comfort. It should attract your presence and not repel it. And I like to do this by making sure there's an ambience, as if it's a pub or a restaurant or somewhere equally cozy. I like this diffuser because it creates a trail of wispy vapor that just flows over the desk beautifully. It's calming and almost hypnotic. You can also add plant oils inside, which fill the air with this beautiful natural scent, which quite literally changes your mood. Next up, I like to have a candle burning as I work, especially at night. Of course they smell good, but apart from that, the light produced by a flame will always have more aura than something made by electricity. That's just a timeless rule, and it adds atmosphere, even if it's just this tiny little flame. And finally, I like my workspace to be a museum of my character. I mean, that sounds so pretentious, doesn't it? What I mean is, it should be a place that really highlights your personality, and it should be unique to you. That's what I mean. And I like to do this by displaying items that relate to my interests or hobbies or anything else like that. I like to display books, fragrances, mementos from trips, that sort of thing. It makes your environment interesting and personal, and not just this copy and paste style office that you'd find in a showroom. If you like this video, I'm going to link a few others that I think you might also like. But apart from that, I love to hear what you do. What's your setup like? What items do you have? If you don't want to gatekeep, of course, what small things do you put that are very useful or maybe overlooked or under the radar, that sort of thing? And in general, what's your philosophy when it comes to these spaces? Because it's not as easy as just buying items and, there you go. It's something you have to build and construct and really tailor. So please tell me. I'd love to hear it. My emails are open, the comment section's open. And of course, it's always very nice to get that discussion going and to hear from others, see what they're doing. Please tell me. And of course, thank you for watching. I really appreciate your time.